talking about. I know my husband retired from the United States Forest Service. He was in charge of some of the biggest timber operations in California at one time. And the roads have been taken out. I mean, we can't even get fire trucks in there anymore. Very simply, can we, starting at the ground level where we are right now, let's say in X number of years, change this around? We're so broke and we're so debt laden, will we ever be able to go back and put those roads in and be able to actually sell lumber, put our mills back that have been destroyed and sent to foreign countries, and we'll get the picture?
My answer is very simple. Yes, we can, and I don't mean it the way those knuckleheads do United Farm Workers. You know. Yes, we can. Over time. And it's taking a lot shorter time than I thought it would take. But yes, we can. But remember, when we are in charge, we make the rules, and they can't do anything about it. When we are in charge, we are appointing the judges to the bench who are making the decisions that they should be making instead of the decisions of the dirtbags that appointed them in order to pay back the political patronage for being appointed a judge. When we're in charge, we can change all these things. That's why becoming in charge is so important. We're dealing with absolute opposites. Either they're in charge or we're in charge. But this is not like Canada or like England, where you have a parliamentary, a combination government, where you have the Social Democrats and the Communist Party working together to have a working majority. That isn't the way it works in America. Their whole concept of freedom has nothing to do with anything our founding fathers had given us. So either they're in charge or we're in charge. We have to become in charge. That's got to be our goal. And what I'm trying to say is it doesn't take as much work as we think it takes to become in charge if you understand confrontational politics and the importance of vocal minorities having an impact. Like I said, the lumber industry should have calmly and forcibly shown members of Congress that mega bucks were ready to go after those bold enough to vote against them. Had that happened, the spotted owl, the snail darter, the fairy shrimp, the same is true with the ranchers and the people who have grazing cattle, who grow the steaks that I love, who are pushed out of rangelands and all of the traditional heritages that we have here in America that they're trying to curtail. If they think in these terms, they could avoid everything that they're facing right now. Had Congress leadership known that their environmental allies were creating an implacable, well-financed, and politically astute enemy, would the owl have been given a hoot in Capitol Hill? No, they wouldn't have. Because it would have been something that was going to kill them by making them lose their job. And that, to the liberal legislator, is the most important thing in the world. To keep that job, to keep the power. Okay. So the way to defeat the humanists is to take advantage of their causes. Whether it's the environment, which is a lie, green science, which is a lie, global warming, which is a massive lie that's been uncovered. And then people are going, no, it's not. It's not a lie. Really, it's not. They didn't actually just make up those things completely. Just, If we organize effective opposition, professionalize staff, build a war chest of funds, target weak incumbents, joyfully punish the adversaries, and stay in the fight until the last liberal is retired from office, we can accomplish our goals. Remember that the left encountered, when they do encounter this opposition that we're talking about, what the timber industry should do, their natural step is to take a step back. And once we make them take that step back, we now know what we should be doing. We should make sure they have round heels as they keep going, as we keep pushing them back. Okay? No compromise. We don't make that mistake. We keep pushing and we push. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not to get off track, but very quickly, how do you suggest a true grassroots movement develop a war chest and pay their leaders?
You know, that's a really good question. And what I'm struggling with is that there is nothing that I could have told you folks to help and encourage you to get to the point that where you are right now without the combined ingenuity and the combined commitment that all of you have had to develop the Tea Party groups, the protest groups, all of your activities in all of these towns and make it infectious. I can tell you what we did in identifying donors. It works with small donors. You know, the average contribution to donors in California is $35 a year. And when you have enough people who believe that $35 a year, the cost of one box of ammunition a year, and you can make people understand, you make them dedicated donors, you put those resources together and they start to add up. Yes, it always helps when you have a big daddy Warbucks who has been given to the Republican Party and says, I'm sick and tired of throwing my money down a rat hole, I'm going to give it to the Tea Party people. And let me tell you, that's something that I'm actually working on. Trying to encourage some of these guys that have been throwing good money after bad and saying, you know, you're better invested in these people that are making something happen. Putting together these pools of money that potentially could be grants to Tea Parties throughout the state of California, so when somebody has a protest rally and they need some quick money, a couple $1,000s to put a bunch of signs together or to hire a bus to get 100 people down to a rally or something, and they can call and out of this pool some money could be used to spend on that. Using a little bit of free market, free enterprise ingenuity to make something like this happen is you've already got those brains.
Well, when you talk to your friends, just tell them, look at what these folks have done with no money. Can you imagine what they could do with your money?
Yeah.
That's a good loss.
Let me tell you. For donors in California, I see what you guys have done with no money. And that's why I'm so excited about you, because when you do have money,
watch out.
It'll be scorched earth on their side of the street, and that would be a wonderful thing. So we'll keep thinking about that, though. We'll keep working on that. Okay. We all face liberals, don't we? We've all faced them. We've all seen them. We've been signs, and they come up, and if the aggressive attack continues, they will panic and get personally vicious. How many of us have heard the liberals get personally vicious? They get their veins are popping, and they're spitting, and they're talking, and they're calling you these right-wing Nazis, you know, whatever. Thank you. It means that they're losing. You need to understand when you get them to that brink, they're starting to come apart at the seams. That is a natural reaction that happens when you lose control. And the fact that we aren't losing control in that kind of a confrontation, and they are, means that we're winning. After they get vicious, and they get nasty, and they get mean, and they try whatever they can to subvert you, and then the lies start to come. They start to say, these guys are racist. I heard them talking about black people and Mexicans up there on the bridge. and then they put it on TV, and you hear on this, the reporter, James Smith, was on the bridge and overheard a Tea Party activist, and this is the recording, and you hear, oh, as the cars are going by. And you hear, there's a Mexican bridge. And they put that on, and that's news. You're darn right we're winning. Yes. You know,
like the spitting.
You know, I praise the Lord for Sarah Palin all the time, and I'll tell you what, whether by the Lord's grace, she becomes a candidate for president or not, she has willingly put herself out there as a massive distraction to the left that has got them so occupied that she's over here, this is how the left is. Yelling at her, completely exposing their backsides to us, giving us an opportunity to put on cowboy boots right where they belong. Yes.
A comment from Nancy Pelosi really interested me last fall when she was commenting about the people that were demonstrating at the Capitol that were brandishing swastikas. They were carrying signs that had swastikas on them, and I thought, well, of course they were. For the hypocrites in D.C., it wouldn't. No, but she was again. I think this is what you're getting at. She's taking that and making that a half truth because they were, but it was because it was intended for them and not for us. Right. Ah.
Beneath their thin veneer of skin, they are nasty people. They have no joy except politics and power. We're dealing with mean, nasty people. So when you scratch the surface and they expose themselves for what they really are, you're winning. We are winning. And you know what? As I said before, they have no plan B. They never expect to be put in that situation by us. They're totally unaccustomed to being on the defensive. They don't know what it's like. They have the manual that they study, the leadership that they get, has no plan B. Yes?
One of my biggest concerns for the fall of accountability is how do we protect our elections? I feel like, I'm ready to go volunteer at a precinct just to be there to make sure that the election box isn't tampered with. And I'm very concerned about the situation with Pennsylvania, where with that whole situation. And is there anything we can do to protect our elections?
Just like you volunteer to be a part of the Tea Party, we need to volunteer to be a part of the process. We need to volunteer. We don't even have to volunteer when they're counting the ballots. It's okay. It's legal for us to be there when they're counting the ballots. Yeah, you can show up and you can watch them count the ballots. And if something is out of the ordinary, you need to record it. You need to stand up about it. Yet being a precinct volunteer and making sure that you watch the ballot box going all the way to the registrar's office or going to the secretary, communicating to the Secretary of State, you can be a part of that process. And all we need is a few checks in the system to watch that. But let me tell you, I'm not so afraid of that. I'm not, and I'm telling you why. Because if that were really that big a problem right now, the elections that were so stinking close this last June would have not been as close as they are. They would not have, they would have stuffed those ballot boxes and somehow made sure they had the majorities. Ma'am here and then.
I have worked on elections for years as a roving inspector, precinct, and I've never, there are so many people watching, and just don't be worried about that going on.
He's not here.
Not here.
Yeah, there are places where we worry a little bit more, like in
Pretty controlled.
El Sereno and Watts, but you know what? Those places are going to elect Democrats anyway. We need to concentrate whatever influence we have in those areas that are the battleground areas, because that's where they're right to be stolen. Yes, ma'am.
We had one of our members this last election in June who asked over in the elections office if she could observe the counting of the absentee ballots, and they said, no, you can't do that. And she thought that it was any citizen's right to be able to do that.
Was she a member of one of the parties?
Or Tea Party.
What about Republican, Democrat?
Yeah, she's with the...
You know, you can actually become an official. If you go to the Central Committee and say, I want to be an official poll watcher or watcher of the ballots, they'll say, okay, and then they can't stop you from being there by law. But in most cases, they allow anybody who volunteers, unless it turns out to be a crowd. But the fact that only a few people ever do that, they allow it to happen. Okay, so the left, when we organize, first of all, they're completely surprised at what's happening with you guys, with us. tea parties with guns. They don't